Welcome to Destination Dissertation, Literature Review and Methodology. My name is Steph Bennett. I'm a Learning Development Tutor in the Hub. Today's aims: to develop knowledge and understanding of the content and structure of the Lit Review and the methodology chapter of the dissertation. And we're going to look at locating lit and documenting findings, structure and content of the literature review, choosing a methodology and methods, and structure and content of the methodology. Literature review, locating lit, documenting findings. What is a lit review? You may have done one before, so have a think back to that time. It's a critical review of resources exploring your dissertation topic, but it requires you to read extensively around the topic. And there isn't a reading list for this, so you have to actively go out and locate the literature yourself. It demonstrates your knowledge on a topic, it looks at what people already think, it shows relevant theories and methods in a field, and most importantly, it shows the existing gaps in the literature and where you will slot your study into this. Let's get thinking. What approaches can you take to locate suitable literature? You've probably had a lot of practice at this by now. List 3, pause the video for 2 minutes. This is where we'll probably start. We might head to Google Scholar and Boolean search. You can see the keywords in this Boolean search are placed in speech marks. Synonyms of one another, for example social media and social network, are separated by the word or. But separate keywords, for example social media and product development, are separated by the word and. You might also want to think about international spellings. For example, colour in the United States and colour in the United Kingdom are spelt differently. So if you're looking for international literature, remember the different spellings. Boolean searching really helps to pinpoint the most suitable literature, the most relevant literature, and it also helps to narrow down the number of sources returned. You might also want to Boolean search on WorldCat, and we can do this by using Advanced Search. It's a small purple button that you click on and it opens out into a Boolean search. You might want to book in with a librarian to help you locate literature, and you might want to visit Learning Development for support. Don't forget, you're looking for peer-reviewed and cited sources. These are the most suitable and reliable. You're looking for theories. What do those theories suggest? Why are they significant? What are their strengths? What are their limitations? You're looking for studies in your field. What does the evidence from the studies suggest? Why is it significant? Think about generalisability, reliability, validity. And use the CRAP test to help you narrow down the most suitable sources. Is the information current? Is it relevant? Who is the author and what is their authority in the field? Is the information they're presenting accurate? If so, what evidence have they got to back up their arguments? And think about purpose. Is there any explicit or implicit bias? Can you read between the lines? What is the author really trying to say? Let's get thinking again. When reading academically, what questions can you ask of the text to ensure criticality? List 5 questions, pause the video for 3 minutes. You might want to predict what you might find by reading the title. For journals, we're going to head to the abstract and conclusion. What do those things tell you? When you read the overall chapter or journal article, what is the overall argument or point of the author? You might have come to the piece with a set of questions that need answering already. Does the text answer those questions? How does the text deepen your understanding? Does it tell you things you didn't know before? What are the strengths of the arguments being presented? What are the limitations of the information being presented? How can you use this information moving forward in your Peel paragraphs? If you're looking to books, have a look at the contents. Which chapters are the most suitable? Have a look at the index for keywords related to your topic. Which pages are the most suitable for close reading? We always say read the abstract or conclusion of a journal article to determine whether you need to read the full thing. And once you have a partial reading list together, You can locate additional texts by looking to the author's additional publications. Maybe they've written something in the current year. Have a look at who they've cited. Rather than secondary reference, can you go and locate the original source? If you cannot locate this original source via WorldCat or via Google Scholar, what you can do is use Internet Archive. Let's show you that now. This is Internet Archive. Let's look for an old source. Okay, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Most of the time we secondary reference this from other sources, but here you can see is the original version, or one of the original versions. All you need to do is sign up for free, log in and borrow, read the chapters that you need to, and if you can't find what you're looking for, you can search keywords and the pages will pop up at the side here, and you can then head to those pages. Documenting your findings from literature, you can use a synthesis matrix, or I like to call them reading tables. This is a more open reading table. You write your APA 7th in the side. You can use that APA 7th then in your final ref list. As you're reading, write a summary of what you've read. Add in the data presented by the author, any theories, any quotes you'd like to paraphrase in your lit review. And the final column, you don't have to use this if you don't want, but it's really useful for developing synthesis in your lit review. As you're reading your sources, you'll start to see authors that agree with one another and authors that challenge one another. So write their names in the far right-hand column, and this gives you your arguments and alternative arguments in your lit review. You can also use the Tom Chatfield reading table. This helps you to critically break down each text. So the APA 7th goes at the top, then you add in the topic being addressed, the overall argument of the author, any implicit or explicit reasons they have used to come to that argument, any evidence to back up their argument, the strengths of their argument, the limitations of the information they're presenting, any questions that haven't been answered by the text. You might want to add them here. Maybe another source can plug the gaps. And any quotations that you want to use or paraphrase, place them in the bottom. Don't forget the page number. You can download a copy of this and the one before it from the Learning Development Blackboard under Academic Reading. Literature review, structure, content. Let's get thinking. You might have done a lit review before. Think back to it. What is the typical structure for a lit review? What should feature in each section? Pause the video for 3 minutes and jot down your ideas. Here we've got a draft literature review. No, you don't have to use this exact draft. I've done one for 2,000 words. You might have fewer words than that. You might have more words than that. But in general, these are the things that can feature inside the lit review. An introduction, I have given it 200 words. What will the lit review focus on? Why have you chosen to focus on this topic? You may want to reiterate your research question for the reader. Main body. Break it down into peel paragraphs of 200 words each. One idea per peel paragraph. You can see I've written peel down the side because we need to be making points. We need to underpin with evidence. We need to explain what that means, why it's significant, and we need to wrap everything up with a link. In the main body, you'll summarise themes from the literature. You'll synthesise the thoughts of multiple authors. You'll analyse what you've read. You'll interpret the findings. You'll look at the strengths and limitations. You'll be super critical. You'll identify gaps in literature. And this will eventually lead you to identify how your study can slot into these gaps. We go to the conclusion, 200 words. What are your key findings from the literature? Succinct summary. Why are these things significant to your study, to the field? And finally, to round it all off, how will your study now contribute to the existing findings, to the gaps in the literature? Here's an example of a Peel paragraph from a main body of a literature review. It's only a nuts and bolts example because you can see the sentences are not finished. You can see we have synthesis, multiple authors, one bracket. You can see it features signposting language. Signposting language helps the reader to gauge what's coming next. Let's have a look at a couple more examples. A contrasting interpretation of the value of play argues that its primary benefit is as part of a reward system. This view has been supported by Haidt and Franklin. A more recent study by Moore has also noted that. This is significant because it suggests, and we've got additional literature in our explanation here, we've got Jones and Warner. Then we've got that wrap up at the end. Consequently, it should be noted that. So it very clearly follows the Peel structure, and we've got quite a bit of literature in there as well. So we're aiming towards this. Let's have a look at another Peel. Fewer studies have been conducted to explore the relationship between play and well-being in the early years. So we're starting now to focus on maybe a gap that exists. Hart has argued that, so we're presenting Hart's ideas. However, it could be argued that this text is outdated. Now we're being critical. This information is not current. It also has low generalisability due to the fact that the researcher only collected data from one school. Now it's critiquing the study Hart has conducted. At the same time, however, it can be seen to have high validity because Hart used qualitative research methods which Denscombe has identified as valuable when researching behaviour. So we've looked at the weaknesses of the study, but also we've looked at the strengths. The validity is good, the generalisability not so good. And then we're looking to Jones and Smith and stating that they are actually better sources because they're not as outdated. And then we're presenting what those sources argue. And in the link sentence, really importantly, we're starting to draw connections between all three authors. However, it is important to note that Hart, Jones and Smith do all agree that play can have a positive impact on well-being. This is a really strong Peel paragraph, and hopefully this gives you an idea of how to move forward with your academic writing. Methodology and methods. Structure, content. A methodology discusses and explains your data collection and analysis methods, what you did and how you did it. It explains and justifies your type of research. That will be your research methodology. It explains and justifies your sample. It explains and justifies tools used to gather data. Those are your methods. And it explains and justifies how you're analysing the data you've collected and ethical conduct. You can head to the ethics blackboard for the last point because there is choosing a methodology. Are you looking for the what of it all? Or are you looking for the how and why of it all? Or are you looking for a mix of both? You want the full story. That will decide whether you're going to go down a qualitative route, a quantitative route, or a mix of both. And this will help you to actually narrow down the type of methodology you want to use, as well as the types of methods you want to use. Choosing a methodology. Think about the nature of your research question or topic. How is research typically conducted in this area? This will help you to gauge where you are going to go with your study. How practical is it to undertake the methodology that you want to? Then you need to conduct reading on methodology approaches and speak with your tutor. Which would work best, qual, quant or mixed methods? Now choose a methodology that will incorporate these things. Then methods, think about the nature of the methodology you've chosen. Have you chosen a survey methodology? If so, what type of methods relate to the survey methodology? How is research typically conducted using the methodology? How practical are these methods? Think about the time that you've got. Think about where you're going to be conducting these methods. Is it feasible or not? And then conduct reading on the methods that you want to undertake and speak with your tutor. Which methods would work best? I usually make a list of strengths and limitations to help me determine this. It's also really useful for writing my methodology chapter because I do need to be highlighting the strengths and limitations of the methods that I've chosen. And will they produce results to answer your question? Always keep that question in mind. Does your methodology and do your methods align with this question? Now choose the methods that will do this. And here is an example draft. 2,000 words for a methodology chapter. You might have more words, you might have fewer words. Introduction to the chapter, 50 words. In this chapter, you're just going to give a little bit of a map as to what's happening in the chapter. The methodology that you've chosen will go here. You might want to say what type of methodology it is, whether it's a qual or quant or a mix. You might want to explain a little bit about the methodology, its strengths, its limitations. You're going to need to justify using it, and everything needs to be underpinned with the literature. Move after that to context and sample. Where is the study being done? What type of sample are you using? If you are a little bit unsure, head to Scribr. There is a lot about different types of samples on there. Who is your sample? Explain a little bit about this. What are the strengths of the sample? What are the limitations? Justify your sample choice and underpin with the literature. Method 1, 400 words. That gives you the option to write a paragraph on your method's strengths, a paragraph on your method's limitations. So you're going to open with a point about which method has been chosen. You're going to underpin it with literature. Explain a little bit about this method. Then you're going to go into the explanation. Well, what are the strengths? Justify using this method. And then you can flip to the limitations. Underpin with the literature again. In the explanation, you might want to offer ways to mitigate the limitations or how you have counteracted those limitations some way. For example, if you've used a quant method, you might want to mitigate the limitations by adding in a qual method. Hence, method 2, strengths and limitations. I'm not saying that you do need to use two methods, but it's a good way to kind of balance it. Data analysis. How did you analyse your data? Did you use thematic analysis? Did you use descriptive stats? Tell us what you used. Explain a little bit about it. Justify using it on your data. And always underpin with the literature. Ethics. You're going to be talking about the same things in this Peel paragraph as you have spoken about on your ethics form. How have you gained informed consent? How have you consistently offered the right to withdraw? You need to be looking towards BGU's ethics policy. You need to be looking towards BERA's now updated 2024 ethical guidelines. You need to look at where you're storing the data, how you will destroy the data. You need to be drawing from the Data Protection Act. You need to be explaining why this is important and justify those ethical approaches you've taken to protect your participants and to protect yourself, always underpinned with the literature. And finally, a closing peel. How is the study limited in terms of validity, reliability, generalisability? You might want to look to Scribr. There is a page by Middleton on there about these things. Definitely acknowledge the limitations of your study in this final paragraph, but please re-justify the appropriateness of the study. Don't obliterate yourself in that closing paragraph. You're just saying, here are some weaknesses, but it's still great, and here are the reasons why. This is just an example. Please follow the exact structure your dissertation tutor has given you. Here's an example of a peel paragraph in this section. Questionnaires were selected as the primary method of obtaining relevant quantitative data. Then we've got the evidence. This has demonstrated in Appendix A. Remember, appendices are A, B, C, D, etc. Then we've got the explanation. Although these questionnaires can have a low response rate, I limited this by. So we're looking at how we're mitigating those limitations. Then we've got the wrap up at the end as a result. Moving forward, if you have any suggestions or questions, drop me an email. Don't forget, head to Scribr, Theses and Dissertations. Every chapter guide is down the left-hand side on that page. Grad Coach Dissertation 101. If you can't find what you need directly on Grad Coach, just head to Google and search Grad Coach Lit Review or Grad Coach Methodology and the guides will pop up. Head to the Learning Development Blackboard course, scroll down to Dissertations. There are step-by-step guides to every chapter. Academic Integrity Guide for all of your referencing needs. If you need any one-to-one appointments with learning development for things like spelling, punctuation, grammar and referencing, just head to Blackboard to book in. You can book in with Digital Learning to help you format your dissertation because it is a long document. You can book in with a librarian to help you locate literature. And lastly, don't panic, everything is going to be okay.